You're tuned in to the frequency of the crypto revolution. Your host, Darrel Bryan,
Trap money,
AKA BitChapo. Bringing you the latest in Bitcoins, altcoins, news events, price volatility, and the knowledge they don't want you to know. 100% facts, no printer. It's the most lit podcast in all of cryptocurrency. Vibrations out of this world. And it all begins right now. You already know.
It's going down.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to In Bitcoin We Trust. I am your host, Darrel Bryan, AKA BitChapo. You are tuned into the frequency of the crypto revolution. Today, guys, we have an amazing podcast. We have the one and only Vortex here to share his thoughts, answer some questions, and diving deep into cryptocurrency. How are you doing, Vortex?
Hey, Darrel, man, appreciate you having me. Just having a great time here talking Bitcoin, talking crypto. So really looking forward to having a conversation. Thanks again, man, for having me.
Oh, yes, of course, Ben. Thank you for coming on. The first thing I want to ask you and your background. How did you first really discover your passion for Bitcoin? What was the thing that made you go, okay, this is worth investing my whole life into?
Yeah, it's a bit of a process, right? Like, I don't think anybody has ever just found Bitcoin and was like, cool, the future, everything's gonna be fine. It's people when they first find Bitcoin, even Andreas Antonopoulos, when you first find Bitcoin, you sort of write it off as just another World of Warcraft gold. You don't really think of it too much. But then for me personally, I found it back in 2012, and again, just wrote it off just as just another digital currency, nothing too crazy. And then I read the Silk Road article in the Gawker on the Gawker blog. So that was a pretty famous article that came out in 2013, and that is when I sort of started to realize the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, the censorship resistant properties of Bitcoin, and that's when I really started to diving down the rabbit hole. So I found Bitcoin in 2012, but really in 2013 is when I discovered what it really was and what the implications were. And as a software developer, I mostly just worked on web application development and things like that. I don't have an economist background or a finance background or anything like that, but it was mostly just software development. But again, Bitcoin touches on all of these things, cryptography, software development, economics, finance, history, and so on and so forth. So once you start diving down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, you will eventually inevitably start learning all this stuff about all of these different fields. So for me personally, I really discovered Bitcoin for the most part in 2013, and just ever since then, but just couldn't stop talking about it. I went on CoinDesk, started doing a lot of comments there in 2013, 2014, and then started my very first Bitcoin News Show podcast in 2015, and that was on the World Crypto Network YouTube channel, and been doing that for a couple of years. That's great, educating people about Bitcoin, having conversations, figuring this all out together. That's what it's all about, is learning together and trying to spread the word about Bitcoin and why it's so important, why it really can save the world. And so I've been doing that ever since, and now, of course, just about a month or so ago, I started my own YouTube channel to discuss these things, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and that's called the CryptoCast Network, and you can find that on CryptoCast.network, the website, or you could just Google us on YouTube. You'll definitely find us. Search on Google or YouTube, you'll find us. But that's what I've been doing ever since. And really, Bitcoin kind of takes over your life. Once you exhaust the patience of your friends, family members, and everybody else, your wife and your husband and everything else, there's just kind of no other outlet other than really the internet. And so this is what I do. This is what I did. I started a Twitter account and with the main focus of sharing information about crypto, and specifically Bitcoin, with the main information of really getting the main goal of really getting the truth out there, what I believe to be the truth, because there is so much noise out there. There's so many people trying to sell you something. There's so many people trying to, even keep you docile, right? Just they're trying to make you trying to withhold information from you and get you to act a certain way. And so I want to make sure that I got the truth out there as much as I could with both the Twitter account and the YouTube channel.
I do agree with you, Vortex, in the aspect of so many people out here with bad intentions. And the truth is, we need people as a whole to rise up and say, you know what? We're going to bring authenticity back. We're going to bring the real, authentic truth to the table. So I appreciate you for those and standing up for what you believe in.
Absolutely, man, because the mainstream media has let us down. The financial system has let us down. The government has let us down. The president has let us down. The Health Association of America has let us down. Everything at this point, the educational system has let us. Everything at this point, has let us down. So we need some, and it's all really stemming from the same problem, which is the centralization, the debt based monetary system that we have around the world. That's what's siphoning and just sucking away all the value into such a small percentage of people. So again, these people are the same people that control all the media and all of these financial systems. So it is very, very imperative and important for the alternative media, for this to be a grassroots organization, a bottom-up approach for people like both yourself and me to speak our passion, speak what we believe to be the truth, because otherwise you're just going to have to turn on CNN. And, as Denzel Washington said, right, if you don't watch the media, you're not informed. But if you do watch the media, you're misinformed. So it's very, very important for the individual responsibility of people these days to actually go and do the research to see what is the truth or not. Because really, at the end of the day, you have to you're not going to be able to put your trust into these old legacy systems. They're going to let you down over and over again. So I hope that with Bitcoin, we can build much more stable systems, systems not based on debt, systems that actually allow you to save your wealth, actually allow you to save your wealth for your children, your children's children, and not get inflated away or have your money stolen or confiscated. Bitcoin, being the first unconfiscatable asset mankind has ever seen. Nobody can take your Bitcoin away from you. And so that's just a really big value proposition for Bitcoin. And that's something that I try to spread the word about.
And that's a great thing that you mentioned just now, the aspect of Bitcoin being the only asset that you truly own. And I want to hear your opinion on this. How important is it for people to know that whatever Bitcoin you hold, as long as your private key is secure, you will always have it?
Yeah, and see, it's a bit of a chicken and an egg problem, right? We have to onboard people to this new system. We have to explain these things to this new system, and not everybody is going to get it. There's going to be a lot of people that still want their hand held, that still are going to want an account on Coinbase, that are still going to want an account manager to manage their various investments. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin really is going to allow you to be your own bank. This is, as Obama said, the ability to have a Swiss bank in your pocket. I mean, it's really, really powerful, and you can go really, really deep as you want. But it's important I want your audience to know too, that for new people, it is still relatively easy to get in. You can just go and open an account on Coinbase if you want. But if you want to take advantage of Bitcoin the way that it was designed, the way that it was meant to, if you want to take take that opportunity that Bitcoin gives you for real, then you do have to do the research to learn about holding your own private keys, holding a hardware wallet, running your own full node, because at the end of the day, that's the only way you're going to really gain your sovereignty in this new digital world. There's no security, there's no privacy. The only thing that we have really is the cryptography of Bitcoin. That is the only scarce thing. As Trace Mayer likes to say, there really is only two scarce things in this universe, and that is time and Bitcoin. And for the first time, we can actually store our value, store our hard-earned value that we created through time and space in a digital asset that is unconfiscatable, and that is Bitcoin. So, I like to say it's super important to know about, to do your research, but at the end of the day, hey, Bitcoin is for everybody. And that includes people who want their hand held and maybe who don't want to take advantage of some of these sovereign properties, some of these abilities to be your own bank. And that's okay. Bitcoin is so many things for so many different people. It's a money, it's a store of value, it's a payment network, it's a application platform for developers. It's, again, this new sound money to save your wealth. And it's so many things. And so it's important for people to understand that you can do whatever you want with Bitcoin. I try to tell people to do what you love to do. Follow your passion, do what you love to do, but just do it with Bitcoin. And I guarantee you're going to be a lot happier person in the next couple of years as the traditional financial system continues to crumble down around us with these negative interest rates and these fiat currencies going, to zero. It's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. And so it's imperative for people like myself and you to onboard people onto Bitcoin, but again, to educate them to the point to where, you can choose if you want to just have a surface level understanding, or if you really do want to go deep. We want to make sure that we get the message out for the people who just want to learn about it and have the resources there available for the people that do want to go deep with this new world-changing technology.
And I think this whole entire world will truly begin to understand Bitcoin the more they're willing to see it not as another currency, but as a technology that has come to revolutionize everything that they do with finances. It begins with the understanding of a technology first, and then a currency second. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's a great point. Beauty on likes to say that he's a great person on Twitter. I highly recommend everybody to follow. And he just started a new show on the CryptoCast network called Bitcoin Matters. But Beauty on is great. He's basically like a Renaissance man. He understands history, finance, economics, all that good stuff. And he likes to say that Bitcoin isn't money. So we shouldn't treat it as such. It shouldn't fall under like these AML, KYC things, because Bitcoin isn't money. It's just information. It's just information, because I can create a Bitcoin transaction and I can, essentially break that down into just ones and zeros. I can break that down into ones and zeros to the point to where I can hide a Bitcoin transaction in an emoji. I can send a Bitcoin transaction by sending you a smiley emoji over Skype. I can create a transaction and broadcast it to you with Morse code, right? It's just information at this point. You can broadcast it manually via radio waves if you really wanted. Bitcoin really isn't money. It's this new digital asset. It's this new way of understanding value, and it really is just a completely new paradigm shift. And so it is very important for people to realize that, yeah, this really sort of isn't money, but this is going to be the representation of how we're going to exchange value for the next 1,000 years.
And for my viewers that have a question about centralization, because many people are wondering what makes Bitcoin trustable. Why is Bitcoin such a trustworthy data or means to actually share transactions and finances? So can you explain how mining is really the core of our ability to trust this network?
Yeah, so trustlessness is really what Bitcoin has created, what the Bitcoin blockchain created, this solving the general Byzantine problem of actually having the ability to have digital scarcity. So it's a number of things that really make Bitcoin Bitcoin. Mining is just one of those aspects. Proof of work. This is what turning energy into Bitcoin directly does. This is the act of turning energy into Bitcoin is basically the process of mining. And so that is one important process. But it's also, again, we spoke about earlier, another process, important process is, or maybe we didn't, but I've been on so many podcasts, it's hard to keep track.
Yes, man, you're a hard worker. I've seen.
So, mining is just one aspect. Another aspect is running your own node, running your full node. So that's another aspect of what it gives Bitcoin this ability to not have to have any trust in any third party. This asset has no third-party trust, essentially, when you combine, when all the constituents of the network are working in tandem. So that, of course, is the miners, the exchanges, the wallets, the developers, all of that together. You trust that. You don't trust you trust the network itself. You trust the protocol. You don't trust any actual human. And so that's what's really, really important about Bitcoin is that for the first time, we really do have this permissionless value transfer. Where you don't have to trust anybody else except the network, so that strangers can transact value from across the world. They don't have to trust each other. All they have to trust is Bitcoin, is the Bitcoin network. And that's just really, really important. We've never had anything like that before. This can this can unleash a global trade, global free trade like we've never seen before. This can create economies of scale unprecedented in human history. And so this is what's going to be a really important part of the future of finance, of transacting, of markets, is Bitcoin, is this permissionless value transfer. So again, it's not just the mining. The proof of work really helps, but it's also running the full nodes. It's also the developers, the decentralization of the software, of how it gets created, and all of that together really is what gives Bitcoin this ability to have censorship resistance and permissionless value transfer, having zero counterparty risk. This is the only asset that can do that. In my opinion, Bitcoin really is the only decentralized public blockchain at scale. There's nothing else that can come close. There's nothing else that's been tested. Ethereum is a close number 2, but it has not been tested. And the tests that it did have completely failed, of course, when they rolled back, their transactions with the DAO last year. So Bitcoin really is the only asset that will give you this ability, this unconfiscatability, this permissionless value transfer. Bitcoin is the only thing that can do that. And so it's important to understand that if you look at the huge landscape of all these hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands and thousands of assets and all these hundreds of crypto funds out on Wall Street these days that are all trying to sell you ICOs and tokens and security tokens, it's important to remember the focus that Bitcoin has on sound money, this unconfiscatable asset, and that will not waver, is, from what I can tell.
Vortex, one final question. Any way you want to elaborate this. A lot of people believe that they've missed out on Bitcoin. They think that they should have got in 2010 or prior or anything before the rise. Can you explain to people where we are in the current moment? How any single person is a pioneer just by understanding Bitcoin?
Absolutely. See, in the early days, I remember when Bitcoin went to $30 and then crashed down to $2, and I thought, oh man, that's it. I've definitely missed the boat now. I could have I could have had a tons of money, right? If I would have sold the $30, I missed the boat. And then of course it went to after that, it went to $1,000 and then crashed down to $20. People thought maybe they missed the boat. And then, of course, it went up to $20,000 and crashed to $6,000, and people think that they missed the boat. So they're going to continue thinking that they're missing the boat. But in reality, we are all early adopters. If you look at the actual penetration of Bitcoin around the world in the markets, maybe 1% or 2% of the world knows and understands about Bitcoin and is using Bitcoin. It's a really, really small percentage. We are really, really early days still. So in my opinion, you have not even come close to miss the boat, because again, this is the world's only finite asset. This is the only asset that can't be increased in production. For example, so if you look at like something like iron, if the value of iron went up, well, then what would happen? Everybody, of course, would go ahead and try to mine more iron and sell more iron on the market, and that would of course bring the price back down again. But with Bitcoin, no matter the price, even if it's $1 million a coin, the same amount of Bitcoin will get produced every day, and there will only ever be 21 million coins. So with these economic properties in place, we can see that where we are in the grand scheme of things 10 years down the road, with Bitcoin being only $6,000, only $100 billion market cap, we look at that and we compare it to something like gold, which is a $7 trillion market cap, right? Or something like the derivatives market, which is hundreds of trillions of dollars. When you look at it and compare it to these types of markets, even the fiat currencies like USD, we can see that we're really, really, really early. It's just a tiny little drop in the bucket compared to these other more mature asset classes like these precious metals, like these derivatives that we find around the world. So, it's like I like to say, it's still really early days. There is still plenty of time. In my opinion, this is going to play out over decades. But really, by the year 2028, at that point, I think the whole world will have switched over. We will have had this infrastructure inversion where, just like with the internet, we eventually switched all telephony and communication, over to the internet from phone lines and others. Services and coax and things like that. We eventually put all telephony over the internet. This is what's going to happen with banking, with assets, with the financial system. It will eventually all switch over to the top of Bitcoin, and it's going to take decades. But like I say, it's really, really early. In terms of price, we're expecting Bitcoin to be around 100,000 by 2020, around 250,000 by 2022, over 500,000 to 1 million by 2024, and by 2028, it's essentially over. It'll be like talking about the dollar. It'll be boring, So plenty of time to get in. And again, learning this stuff now, it's so imperative, because it's like learning HTML and JavaScript in 1995. It's like learning about email and HTML in 1995. It is just huge. It's going to be, this is how the world is going to work for the next 1,000 years. So it's imperative to get in and start learning this now. It will be beneficial. You will have a long-standing career if you get into this stuff now.
Thank you, Vortex, for your thoughts. Please shout out any information you want on how people can follow you more, or any people that you find influential.
Yeah, man, there's so many people out there. I personally have a list of people that you can follow. It's on my Twitter list. So you can find me on Twitter at @the1vortex, all spelled out at @the1vortex. And on there, I have a list called Bitcoin, where there's just hundreds of people that I recommend you follow on there. Very, very important people, very smart people that are actually doing the hard work, that are in the trenches every day. I recommend you check that list out. Again, plenty of people to follow. And then, of course, you can find my YouTube channel at CryptoCast.network. We just started that about a month or so ago. We got a few shows on there. We're having a great time. We're teaching and educating people about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And it's essentially a nonprofit. It's a community-driven, community-focused, community-supported YouTube channel. So we appreciate any feedback that we can get from there. And then also, I do have a course where I teach C# application developers how to work with Bitcoin, and you can find that at programmingwithbitcoin.com. bitcoin.com, again, where we teach application developers how to work with the C# library and Bitcoin to be able to begin integrating Bitcoin into your applications.
Thank you, Vortex, for this amazing podcast. I hope to be in contact with you soon, my friend.
Absolutely, Darrell. Thanks so much, man, for having me on. I'd be thrilled to come on again anytime. Just hit me up.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the frequency of the crypto revolution. If you learned something new from this podcast, please share with a friend. Follow us on social media, Twitter @we_Bitcoin, Instagram @we_Bitcoin. Thank you again for tuning into this podcast, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Crypto Revolution, the most lit podcast in all of cryptocurrency. 100% facts, no printer. Follow us on Twitter and stay in the loop. Peace, love, and light. See you soon.